Hello, friends. This is Worm, and whether we wanted it or not, we've stepped into a war with the Cabal on Mars. And today I wanted to talk about exotic weapons and talk about some of the worst performing exotic weapons currently in the game, inside of PvE, obviously. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because it's a lazy Saturday, and I thought it'd be really just fun to look at what's the worst exotics. And, uh, you know, it makes me laugh to see this, right? So I'm going to pull up over here on screen the list of the bottom of the board for PvE exotic usage. And we're going to take a look at some of these and see how Bungie can make them better, right? So let's pull it up. Of course, here we see, let me zoom in a little bit. So there we go. This is the bottom. This is the bottom of the barrel, right? And these are the exotics. Darcy in very, very last place. And Darcy, I feel bad. I feel bad for Darcy because Bungie has again and again and again tried to buff Darcy to make it viable. You know, they gave it the ability to jolt targets. They increased its damage. They did this. They did all this stuff to it, and it is still down here at the bottom of the freaking board. Bungie, just make it a damn special weapon already. Make it a special weapon. I don't see why Darcy is still a heavy sniper. It's a terrible heavy sniper. I would argue that if you want an arc sniper, Cloud Strike is just better, flat out, than Darcy. They're trying to make it work, and it's just not doing it. And at one point, Darcy was pretty decent at dealing damage. I don't know how it is currently, you know, in that front, but it's just, it's so bad. It's embarrassing. Right now, here's what I would do aside from obviously making a special weapon, because I think just making it a special weapon, boom, you're going to see it in a lot more people's loadouts almost immediately. Right. But here's what I would do to make Darcy a better weapon in the heavy slot. Right. Number one, increase its damage by kind of a lot. Right. It's like, I mean, I would almost argue that Darcy should deal as much damage as Whisper of the Worm per shot. Right. And I know that some people say, oh, but then nobody would use Whisper of the Worm. No, people would still use Whisper of the Worm because Whisper of the Worm has almost infinite ammo. Darcy does not. But I think that this would be a really, really good start. You know, the ability, of course, also to jolt targets that you're aiming at would be beneficial, because if I'm not mistaken, Darcy deals the same damage as any other 140 sniper. Maybe it's a little bit more, but it does not warrant heavy usage, right? It does not warrant your heavy slot for a weapon. I would say also something they could really do to really help this weapon out, give it intrinsic like anti-barrier rounds or intrinsic unstoppable, right? And I know somebody's gonna say, okay, hey, but it already does jolt, which is overload, right? Give Darcy the ability to stagger more than one champion. Like I think that players forget that certain perks like Chill Clip, for example, that can stun multiple different types of champions are wildly popular in PvE content, right? Darcy could do that. They could give it the ability to stagger all three types of champions, right? And they should do that, because there's nothing they can do to it, it seems like, to make it more viable outside of making it a special weapon. And they seem, and by they I mean Bungie seems pretty committed on keeping Darcy as a really, really terrible weapon, and they are committed to keeping it in the heavy slot. I don't see Darcy ever realistically getting used as a heavy sniper, right? So I think the first thing you should do is make it a special weapon, but if they're not going to do that, give it all three champion stunning capabilities. Gosh, I mean, it's almost embarrassing at this point. They buffed it so many times and it still is at the bottom. But moving on to the next, we have World Line Zero. World Line Zero received a buff not too long ago. It's actually a really, really strong contender now in terms of damage and like champion killing. I think the reason why World Line Zero is down here at the bottom is because it's not really the most practical. And if you're going to use an exotic sword, why not just use Lament? Like, Lament is really, really good. Lament heals you. Lament has anti-barrier. Like, Lament does a lot of things. World Line Zero, like, yeah, it has good damage and allows you to zip around, but like, that's it. Right. And this is one, I don't know how I would realistically change this one outside of adding some subclass keywords like jolt or blind or something like that, because it is an arc sword, of course. But I think that this one, maybe you just need some time to catch up with the buffs that it got. But otherwise, other than that, I mean, it's down here. It's not horrible. I don't think it gets the usage that it deserves. But let's move on to the next one. Lawrence Driver. This, I'm actually surprised. Okay, I looked at this list literally like 2 minutes before I started recording this video, right? And 2 minutes before I started recording this video here, let me just move this so y'all can actually watch this gameplay down here. And I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Lawrence Driver is really not a horrible exotic at all. Let me close out of that. It's got ad clearing potential. It's a special weapon. It's got decent ammo. I don't know why it's underused here. I would say probably it's just not as good as some other options, like Arbalest, for example. Arbalest, the fact that Arbalest does anti-barrier makes it a contender, right? If Arbalest didn't do anti-barrier, it wouldn't, I mean, you wouldn't see usage. And I think Lawrence Driver could probably use just something similar. Maybe when you trigger a black hole, you know, explosion or whatever, it stuns unstoppable champions, you know, or something along those lines. I think that also since they removed some of the features that it came with initially, like, you know, picking up the tags, grants, ability energy, or whatever it was back in the day, I think that's another reason why you don't see this weapon as predominantly used. I don't know. It could definitely use some buffs. I don't know how exactly I would buff it. Duality. This is a PvP weapon. I'll say that. Rat King. Okay, Rat King is a very interesting one. I think the reason why Rat King is so close to the bottom is because it is a sidearm, an exotic sidearm. And exotic sidearms really are not very well liked in PvE. I mean, why would you waste your exotic weapon slot on a sidearm where you have to be close range, right? When you could use it on something like Quicksilver Storm. And if you're going to use a sidearm, why not just put on Traveler's Chosen that at least gives you ability energy? Like, yeah, the Invis is really nice. Health regeneration is really nice. But Destiny has come a long way. Like, Rat King way back in vanilla D1 was probably a lot stronger. Actually, it was a lot stronger in PvE because it had that element of survivability. Now that we have so much to survive with, Rat King has kind of fallen out of relevance. I don't really know what they could do with Rat King in PvE. In PvP, Rat King's a beast, okay? I've said it multiple times. Rat King is an absolute beast in PvP. But in PvE, it's a slow weapon, right? It's a safe weapon, but it's very, very slow. And I think that's why it doesn't see much usage. I don't really know how the heck we could fix it, but Bastion is another one. It has intrinsic unstoppable. That's basically all it does, right? I know that it has a perk that allows it to over penetrate shields or something like that. That over penetration really, really sucks. You want to make Bastion more meta, right? Give it anti-barrier as well as unstoppable, right? I think you'd have a problem then, because then it would make Arbalest completely irrelevant. But the whole thing is with shields, right? Why not let Bastion pierce barrier and unstoppables, right? Hell, throw an overload too if you want to make it razzle dazzle. But yeah, Bastion, I think that it needs some kind of a rework. Like, its exotic perk is literally that it is a burst fire fusion, you know, and not the strong aggressive frame kind, not the linear fusion kind where it's, you know, blah blah, it shoots in 3 lines, deals a lot of damage. Like, it deals pretty okay damage. It's more than normal fusion rifles, but it does not feel exotic to me, outside of the fact that it's a burst fusion, and the burst fusion is not even that strong. Moving on, then we got Eyes of Tomorrow. Eyes of Tomorrow, this recently did receive a pretty substantial buff, where if you kill X amount of targets, I think it's 4 targets with a volley, you get that ammo back. This is the first ever, well, not the first ever, I should say. This is the only current truly unlimited heavy ammo weapon in the game. Like, you know, Whisper the Worm used to have infinite heavy, but with this one is an ad clearing weapon, and I think that's what brings it down so low on the board here, because rocket launcher and ad clear, they don't really go hand in hand. You know, when you think rocket launcher, you're not thinking of, hey, I want to, use this for ad clear. No, it's like, hey, I want to use this for some boss damage, right? Eyes of Tomorrow doesn't even do that well. Like, it splits the damage between rockets. Like, yeah, it does more damage than a normal rocket launcher against a boss, but the damage is not really worth it. Like, you could use an exotic special or a different exotic heavy, like Galahorn for team support. You could use Sleeper Simulant, which deals more damage. Like, there's a lot of other options. This one I would say is definitely more of a PvP / Gambit weapon. And of course in Gambit it's phenomenal, but nobody plays Gambit, right? So yeah. Mida Multi-Tool. This is a movement exotic. I would say PvP primarily. You know, I wouldn't use this in PvE. It's a really neat weapon. I think really you want to bring this into PvE and make it something viable in PvE. Give it some sort of boost, like give it some sort of stat boost when you're moving, right? You know, when you're sprinting, you get increased, you know, resilience and recovery, right? Or just give it a damage perk. Give it rampage, give it kill clip, give it precision instrument. Oh, precision instrument on Mida multi-tool would be fantastic. If you did that, I guarantee you Mida would start climbing up the ladder. And it's nothing crazy that you have to do to it, right? Like it's literally just adding a perk. Trespasser, oh God, I don't even remember what Trespasser does. Something about burst fire thing when you get a kill after reloading after a kill gives you a super burst. This is just a weak sidearm in general. I would say it's probably more PvP oriented anyways. And of course we are looking at the PvE list. Remember that. I don't know how you can make this better in PvE activities, but yeah, it's pretty low. Collective obligation. Okay, collective obligation. This is actually a really sad one because I think collective obligation has so much potential, but Void 3.0 has really dropped off, right? It's really dropped off. I think you want to make collective obligation more used in PvE. Give it a catalyst and give that catalyst destabilizing rounds and repulsor brace. You do that and collective obligation will climb. It will climb in the PvE usage charts. Moving on, Heart Shadow. I don't even have Heart Shadow, so I don't really know exactly what it does. I know that it can turn you invisible or something like that. Again, invis, there's so many ways to turn invis in-game already. What's the point of using, and that was another thing with racking, right? There's already so many ways to turn invisible. Why would you need an exotic to just turn you invisible even more? I don't know. Ward Cliff Coil, does this need any explanation? This is a meme weapon. It's a very fun meme weapon, but it just is blow your load simulator 3000. You shoot like 12 rockets out of it. They go all different directions. Yeah, I don't know how you can make this better. Final warning. I mean, I feel like we should kind of stop it. Like that's the bottom, what, like 10 or something like that. Like we could go all the way up the list, you know, and talk about each one of these, but these slowly get better and better until you start, you know, getting up towards the very, very top where you have things like, you know, Outbreak Perfected, which of course Outbreak Perfected is good, even though it's, according to this list, it's a little bit low on the scale down here. Wish Ender is currently the most used PvE exotic. Quicksilver Storm, of course, is the next one. Monte Carlo, of course, is the next one. Thunderlord, like, you know, we keep going up the list, but yeah, those are the worst exotics currently in Destiny 2 PvE. I mainly wanted to make this video because Darcy is still down here. Bungie, Darcy is still freaking down here at the bottom. Please just make it a special weapon. Please, for the love of God, make it a special weapon. Anyways, yeah, that's it for this video. Like I said, lazy Saturday. We're just having fun at this point. So if you like the video, drop a like. It helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, conversations, debates, and all of that good stuff. And yeah, do me a favor, watch the videos you see on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you will like them. And ladies and gentlemen, I will see y'all next time. Bye for now, guys.